All right, 2.4. Here are our objectives for today. Find slopes and equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. Interpret slope as a rate of change. And find a function's average rate of change. Okay? So what about parallel and perpendicular lines? What do you know about them? If I tell you one line has a slope of 1/2, what is a line that is parallel to that has a slope of 1/2? If I tell you the slope of a line is -2/3, what does a parallel line to that line have a slope of? -2/3. Parallel lines have what? Do you remember that? Okay. What about if I tell you a line has a slope of 1/2, and I want to know about perpendicular, the line perpendicular to that? Negative what? 2? So if I tell you the slope is 3/4, what is the perpendicular slope to that? -4/3, because perpendicular lines have, not lines. This is an N. Opposite, reciprocal, slopes. She's making fun of me because I accidentally wrote limes instead of lines. So then she snorted. Okay? Can you find slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines? It also says you have to be able to find equations. So if I tell you the slope and that it's parallel to another line that goes through a specific point, could you find the equation? You just put that point in for x and y and simplify for b, right? Okay, any questions about that? So what about interpreting slope as a rate of change? What does that mean? You have to know that slope means rate of change. Okay? Most of the time when it says interpret, it's talking about a word problem, right? So if it tells you like times per month, right? Which variable is x? Month, because it's change in y over change in x, and if it's times per month, x is in the denominator, so that's months. And so the y variable would be the time, right? The times per month. So the rate of change would be times per month. You have to interpret that as a slope, as a rate of change. Okay? What about the last one? Find a function's average rate of change. Guys, does a parabola have a slope? It does not. It's a curve, right? You can't have a slope of a curve. What you can find is a function's average rate of change. Okay? So I could tell you specifically, we're going to talk about the parent function of a quadratic. So x squared. Okay? Then I could tell you f of 0 equals 0 and f of 1 equals 1. But that's also something you could figure out yourself, right? If x is 0, what is y? Or what is the value of the function? Well, 0 squared is 0. If x is 1, what's the value of the function? What's 1 squared? 1. So you're finding the average rate of change between these 2 points. You know and I know that that is a curve and doesn't have a slope, but we can find the average rate of change between those 2 points. So we would say x1 is 0 and x2 is 1. Okay, that's actually how we figured out f of 0, f of 1. We just plugged in 0, plugged in 1. Okay? So we would use this formula, quote unquote formula, because it's something you already know. Right? Change in y's over change in x's. Changes of the value of the function over changes of the x value. Well, f of 2, that would be this one, right? This would be f let me change that. This is the second point. X sub 2 is 1. So the value of the function would be this one, because that's the value of the function at 1. So that would be 1 minus the value of the function at 0 would be 0 over 1 minus 0. Does anyone know what 1 minus 0 is? Yeah, that took entirely too long. What about 1 minus 0? Okay, excellent. That was nice and fast. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. So the average rate of change between these 2 points is 1. So we have a parabola right here. And if we're talking about between here and here, it's actually a line, right? Like that. Not a curve, but it's a line. And so we're saying the slope, if I drew a line that connected these 2 points, that slope would be 1. Does that make sense? What if I tell you x sub 1 is 1 and x sub 2 is 2? Well, first we have to find the value of the function, right? We're again going to use x squared. F of x equals x squared. So what is f of 1? Well, what's 1 squared? 1. What about f of 2? What's 2 squared? 4, right? So we say the value of the function at the second point, which would be this one, so 4, minus the value of the function at the first point would be 1, divided by what? 2 minus 1. What is 4 minus 1? 3. What's 2 minus 1? So this simplifies to be what? 3. So this point would be up here somewhere, right? So if I drew a line in between those 2 points, we're saying that average rate of change is 3. I know I'm not talking about the slope of the curve because we don't have that. I'm saying if I choose this point, I drew the line wrong. Can I fix it real quick? It's not through 0, 0. It's through this 1, 1 and through the 2, 4. These two. Okay, please forgive me for that. I'm saying if I have this point and I connect those 2 points, and then I drew a line through it, the slope would be 3. That's the average rate of change. Got it? Any questions?